ain't even optional, man. You just have to tune into YouTube to watch the broadcast or download it to your phone to peep the podcast. They mix laughter, they get after. It's all captured in the 5th chapter.
That's right. Welcome to the 5th chapter. I am Brian Chapman. He is Dennis Fithian. And as we get set for episode number 27, the big news of the day is that a couple of days ago, Kamala Harris died, and now she's apparently Joe Biden's vice presidential nominee. Did you hear about that?
I thought maybe you were talking about the second pairing for the Colorado Avalanche, but no. Yeah, I did hear about that.
Yeah.
I was more focused on the sports today.
Yeah, and for those of you who missed it, there's a wrestler who is named Kamala Harris, and the wrestler named Kamala Harris died. He was either yesterday or the day before, and everybody was tweeting the hashtag RIP Kamala. And Kamala Harris is actually a man if you look at the wrestler. And now today, the wrestler didn't come back to life to become the vice presidential nominee, but it's the senator from California who was chosen by sleepy Joe Biden. But I want to thank everybody who is watching and tuning in today for episode number 27. We have 5 more fantastic chapters for you. I want to thank everyone who's watching on YouTube, everyone who's watching on Facebook Live, and also everybody who's watching on Twitch. We are now on Twitch. If you prefer to watch that way, we recommend it. You can find us twitch.tv/the5thchapter. You can leave comments on Twitch as well. So we definitely are pleased to have the 5th chapter on Twitch. Dennis just showed you that we're streaming right now on Twitch as well as YouTube and Facebook. Of course, we also want to thank those listening to the podcast via Apple, Google, and Spotify. That, of course, is available at around midnight on the day of each show. Make sure that you like, subscribe, and participate in each show by sending in your comments via Facebook Live, via YouTube, or via Twitch. Dennis will be reading those throughout the course of the show. Let's now take a look at today's book. And as you can see in the 2nd chapter, the Tigers are way above 500. Is it time to start believing in this team? Perhaps not if you've already clicked off the game because you see what the score is right now. In the 3rd chapter, did the Red Wings lose the NFL draft lottery again? And also, who wins the Stanley Cup Finals? In the 4th chapter, Bob Quinn is at it again. You'll never guess who his trade partner is this time. Just kidding. And in the 5th chapter, it's game time. Dennis will be asking his trivia to me, and of course, while he usually has a foul attitude when I ask him questions, I'm going to go in with a positive attitude, assuming that I'm going to eat that W like Jameis Winston. But Dennis, let's start with the 1st chapter. We go to college football, and you can add, well, some more conferences to the list of those canceling all fall sports. First, it was the nerds of the Ivy League last month. Then last week, it was the MAC, the Mid-American Conference, including your alma mater, Eastern Michigan. Yesterday, it was the Mountain West. Today, the Big Ten, which includes Michigan, Michigan State, and we are Penn State. They canceled fall sports. And then later on in the day, because that announcement came at 3 o'clock, at 4:30, the Pac-12 won up to the Big Ten. Not only did they postpone their season, they said no sports throughout the remainder of the calendar year. So we're still waiting to find out what the Big 12 is going to do. Still waiting to find out what the ACC is going to do. As far as the SEC is concerned, we do have we do have a statement from them, and I'll put that up on the screen so you guys can see it. It's a tweet that they put out. And it says, I look forward to learning more about the factors that led the Big 12 and Pac-12 leadership to take these actions today. I remain comfortable with the thorough and deliberate approach that the SEC and our 14 members are taking to support a healthy environment for our student athletes. We will continue to further refine our policies and protocols for a safe return to sports as we monitor developments around COVID-19 in a continued effort to support, educate, and care for our student athletes every day. That's from the SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey. So the SEC, they said they're playing. Big 12, ACC, don't know yet. They're still up in the air. Pac-12, Big 10, they are done for now, postponing it until perhaps the spring, perhaps canceling it. Dennis, now that it's officially official, what is your reaction to Michigan failing to win the Big Ten championship for the 16th consecutive year? I mean, what's your reaction to the Big 12 and Pac-12 canceling their seasons?
Well, it's a very sad day. I mean, just college football wise, just we're talking about sports here, but it is, it sucks. I mean, we knew this was, it seemed like it was inevitable. It was going to happen, but it really stinks, to see it happening yesterday. It looked like it was going to happen, and then it looked like they were got a stay of execution. Then it looked like, hey, let's give these guys a chance over the next 2 weeks. Let's just see where the science and everything goes. All the coaches going to bat, and actually they were just twisted in the wind. But, I got to go back to last Monday when, that's when they should have pulled the plug on this. And I know that they ended up getting more data about heart inflammation, and I think that's what finally was the straw that led them to there were 10 cases, a report from The Athletic, just in the Big Ten, which is a rare condition to begin with, and that's an inordinate amount of heart inflammation with that story that's been around for the last 24 to 48 hours. And I know there's been doctors that have discounted the data there and everything else, but I think that's what ended up happening today. But it was still sad. But what it comes down to here is that the Big Ten, they acted now, and maybe, they got some cover with the Pac-12, but if the SEC and Big 12 or ACC, any of the three, somehow pull off some football games, this is going to be a day that is going to crush the Big Ten. If the other schools are out there playing football, and in the meantime, they're going to get a lot of positive, hey, we play football, come here, and a lot of people are going to be, all waving their pom-poms for, the SEC and college football. And I know that's gotten political as well. But it's really going to come down to, if the Big Ten made the right call, is if these other conferences can get out there and somehow pull off a college football season, it's going to make the Big Ten look terrible.
Well, I'm curious. Why do you think it's going to make the Big Ten look terrible with that they're canceling the season right now if these other colleges decide they want to go through with it? I think that they're obviously doing it. I know they're doing it because of the health issues. You mentioned the heart inflammation known as myocarditis. That's the same thing that ended Eduardo Rodriguez's season for the Boston Red Sox. What exactly are you referring to when you say it's going to crush the Big Ten to not have college football?
Well, everybody's going to want to transfer. All the recruits are going to decommit, and they're all going to go to the schools that are going to play football. I mean, it's not going to happen where they're going to be allowed to do that this fall. I mean, you'll see a rash of decommitments, but it's going to be a seismic change. I mean, that SEC already, does a great job in recruiting and everything else. But if it ends up going out, I don't think it's going to end up. I think they're all going to follow the Big Ten, and then the Big Ten will actually look like, hey, they were the ones that were really looking out for their athletes the most. But there is a chance. There is a chance that somehow the SEC goes down there and they play some games. Well, it's going to be like, hey, we really care about football more, and the Big Ten is going to be looked at like the Pac-12 is kind of looked at right now, kind of as an afterthought. And I think that'll continue. I think the Big Ten will get crushed in recruiting. They will get crushed with the narrative. It's really going to come down to if these other schools are able to follow suit. But if they play football, this will be a bad day for Kevin Warren, the commissioner of the Big Ten, the rookie, who really looked like a rookie to me over the last week and a half. But let's see what ends up happening with those other schools.
Yeah, I don't think this is going to hurt the Big Ten because I think that they're doing it for the right reasons. I think, like you believe, that they're ultimately going to have to cancel the other college football seasons as well. But when I think about this from a recruiting standpoint, there are certainly people out there that say, let's just play no matter what. I'm not going to die. I'm not going to get that sick. It doesn't hurt 18 to 22-year-olds. And if Michigan or Indiana or Penn State or Northwestern are not going to have football, then I'm going to decommit and go somewhere else. But I think that most people believe that this is not going to be something that's going to affect us for like the next 3 or 4 years. There are some scientists that think it's going to be around for another year or two, but I don't think that most people, and certainly not most recruits, believe that. I think that most people believe that we should be in a position in August of 2021, where everybody's getting ready for football, whether it's because there's herd immunity or there's actual immunity because of a vaccine. I don't think that that high schoolers right now are going to say, "Wow, I'm a 4-star recruited to Michigan. I've committed, but I have to go play in the Big 12 at Oklahoma, or I have to go to play at Florida right now because they just don't care about football." On top of that, there are a lot of college football recruits and players who are saying, I don't feel comfortable playing because I don't trust the COVID-19 guidelines. Think about what the Pac-12 did last week with their hashtag We Are United, or We're United, whatever it is, letter, where in addition to talking about social justice and giving us a 50% cut, they said that they want better COVID-19 precautions. So there's a lot of people out there that I think are not gonna say, wow, the Big Ten is soft, the Pac-12 is soft. When you have the entire conference of the Pac-12 saying we don't want to play unless you meet our demands, which include increased testing and increased precautions for COVID-19, I think that your fears are unfounded.
Well, we're just going to find out. Like, I believe, like you, I mean, if in 2 weeks everybody's focus shifts on, canceling high school football and maybe kindergarten through 12, and if college students would actually be going to class and there's, it's just all this focus and everybody's like online. And I think people will look at the Big Ten and say, hey, you know what? They made the right move here. It was for medical reasons and unknown, like all the things that they said today. But, I mean, you have 3 other conferences out there, and you mentioned Sankey today, and you already put that up there. He's like, they're still all gung-ho, and they're still identifying September 26th. And that's a long time.
Yeah, plenty of time.
To build a narrative, at least for another 2.5. That's why I thought the Big Ten, they could have paused everything today.
They could have.
And then they had 2.5 weeks to play with here. Not that there was going to be some magic bullet here, but more information. They went too soon, especially after they put out that preposterous schedule last week that everybody knew was farcical when you looked at it, when they were talking about September 5th, and then they were on there and they had the nerve to say, well, we built in all these, open dates and gives us all this flexibility. And then the first time they didn't get to use the flexibility, they just pulled the plug. But I get all of that. I get all of it. Safety today, a little sore today. I think tomorrow, when I wake up, be like, all right,
honestly,
I knew it was inevitable.
I'm not even sore because of what you just said. It was inevitable. We've been talking about this for weeks, if not months. I've been saying for weeks, if not months, that we're not going to have college football. And now that it's a reality, I'm not going to sit here and act surprised. I'm not going to sit here and act shocked. And the disappointment wore off weeks ago that I wasn't going to be able to see my favorite college football players and Penn State players play live or on TV or anything like that. And honestly, what I would like to see, as opposed to we want to play hashtag and all this other stuff, let's just play through it, it's not that big a deal. We see that the reason that we're not having college football right now is because the decision makers like Kevin Warren, like the university presidents in the Big Ten and the Pac-12 say that it's not safe to play football right now. You can look across the country and folks are saying it's not safe to open my business, it's not safe to send kids to school. And the reason they're saying that is because there's too much coronavirus spreading throughout the country. So instead of trying to get creative and say, well, what if we can move it to spring? Or what if we can just play through it? Or what if we can just say that I'm not going to get myocarditis or a couple of deaths is fine? Instead of doing that, in this age, in this year of protest due to George Floyd's death, due to racial inequality, due to wanting governors to open up states, wouldn't it be nice if now that their seasons are canceled, you had college football players throughout the country, starting with the Big 10 and the Pac-12, wouldn't it be nice if they started protesting and said, here's what we want from our politicians. A, we want better testing. B, we want you to mandate masks for everyone. And C, we want you to shut the country down so that, like Italy, our numbers can do a nosedive and we can have sports come, if not the spring, the fall of next year. Because what we don't want is to miss March Madness for another year. We don't want to be sitting in the same position in 2021. It'd be nice if they protested and said, we don't have sports right now because the virus is too much, and we need you guys to take the steps to allow us to get back on the field.
Yeah, that's not the way they feel down south. That's
don't.
not the way they feel in the SEC. But, I hear what you're saying. We've got a lot of feedback coming in. Let's first look at YouTube. There you go, champ. There's how you look right there. I'm a little bit behind. No messages on YouTube. Maybe they're all going to Twitch. And the Twitch, for some reason, isn't coming through. But we do have a lot of feedback coming in on Facebook. Keith says, I thought they would cancel college football, and I don't blame them. Too many folks dying and too much risk for the kids. It's sad, but as soon as one kid tragically dies or becomes really ill, what does the SEC do? Too much liability and risk. The heart inflammation is tragically known as the Hank Gathers disease. I didn't know that. Hank Gathers from Loyola Marymount, who died on the court, 25 years ago. Bo Kimball shooting free throws left-handed during the tournament. And Keith does not agree with me. He does not think this will hurt recruiting. And he says, of course, a lot of kids want to play, but this is a pandemic. Mm-hmm. It's only going to continue with no national plan. We can't all be going different ways and are all in different states. It makes no sense. It's never going to work.
Yeah, and real quickly,
if
Dennis.
Shuts down. Go ahead.
I was going to say, try refreshing your Twitch screen because I can see that it is rolling right now.
Oh. As I drop myself there. All right.
Yeah, and while you pick up your screen, I also want to share with you some things that the folks at Ohio State and Nebraska are saying, and also what President Trump is saying, because I'll put up first a tweet that features a quote from Ohio State head coach Ryan Day, and he was asked about whether or not the Ohio State Buckeyes would consider playing in a different conference in the 2021 or the 2020 season, and he said we need to look at every option. Also, you look at one of the Ohio State football players, Taraja Mitchell. He said, "Can we go play in the SEC then?" And of course, you notice that he didn't ask about playing in the ACC or the Big 12 or any other conference because he's a deep South Buckeye. And just so that we're clear, earlier today, Gene Smith was on BTN, and he said that Ohio State would not be pursuing any options outside of the Big Ten Conference. They were just going to be done for the fall season. Additionally, you had Scott Frost, the head coach of Nebraska, speak to the media, and here is what he said, courtesy of ESPN.
We want to play a Big Ten schedule. I hope that's what happens. Our university is committed to playing no matter what that looks like and how that looks. We want to play no matter who it is or where it is. So we'll see how those chips fall. We certainly hope it's in the Big Ten. If it isn't, I think we're prepared to look for other options.
So other options, of course, would mean leaving the conference to go play somewhere else, whether it's in the Big 12 where they used to play or somewhere else. And let's also not forget there was a report that came out yesterday saying that it was not a unanimous vote, that two teams decided that they wanted to continue playing in the Big Ten. Those two were reportedly Iowa and Nebraska. And when Kevin Warren, the commissioner of the Big Ten, was asked about that earlier today, about Nebraska wanting to play elsewhere, he said that he didn't want to comment on it and did not want to comment on whether or not a team could leave the conference. And I want to show one last piece of video to you guys out there, and this is coming from President Trump's official Twitter feed because, of course, he has taken a side in this debate. And for those of you who couldn't see because you're listening via the podcast, it was a montage of different college football videos with President Trump greeting championship teams at the White House and whatnot, and it ended with "We want to play," which is the hashtag that Justin Fields, Trevor Lawrence, and others were using. They want to play college football regardless.
Yeah, well, you know what? we see a lot of red and blue and Democrats and Republicans when it comes down to college football here. It's almost they're lining up. You can almost go state by state and conference by conference and see how it works that way. It definitely looks that way when you look at where the Pac-12 is at and some of the ways, not all of the Big Ten. It's somewhat diverse, but you still see that. Got to hand it to Paul. I think Paul's the one that told us to jump on Twitch, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Chap.
Yep.
Yeah, he's there. He's got, he's putting emojis on there, and I see 627 I think, is here. He's given us the current score of the Tiger game, saying it's 5-2. And
here come the Tigers.
Yeah, Miggy had one on and rolled over on one. Had a nice play to Anderson, and the shortstop made on him. Mm-hmm. That was the last that I saw of it. But Paul also getting into college hockey, say it's not going to happen this fall. They're going to say it's too risky. Yeah, I think that if you're talking about sports that are played indoors, I think what the Pac-12 did today, saying nothing until 2021, I think the Big Ten will follow that. Although if the Big Ten does what it did last week, they'll put a basketball schedule out. Then they'll come out and talk about, hey, look at all these non-conference games we got. We're going to be going here. We'll be going to the Alaska Shootout. Yeah, we're going to crank it up in a month. And then the next day they'll just pull the rug out and say, it's a day-to-day thing.
Yeah. It's two things that I'm interested in when it comes to particularly the SEC, Big 12, and ACC deciding, at least not for right now, to postpone or cancel their seasons. Number one, what's going to happen when students come on campus? Because right now you got, a couple of thousand individuals on campus, a couple of thousand 18 to 22-year-olds on campus. When you multiply that by, let's say, 10, when the entire student body comes back and it's more difficult to socially distance, how much are those coronavirus numbers going to go up? And second of all, think about how crazy it's going to be for a national champion. Let's say that there's 2 or 3 conferences that decide to go play football this year, and then the Big 12 or the Big 10 and the Pac-12 decide to wait until the spring. You can't have a college football playoff if the Big 10 and the Pac-12 decide not to play, and only 2 or 3 conferences are going right now, because the Big 10 and Pac-12 aren't going to start until February or March. There would just have to be no playoff and no championship.
Yeah, I haven't seen any spring models, but I think the thing that you know about spring is that you can't play more than 3-4 games at the most. So you're really going to have exhibitions. You're not going to be playing for any kind of championship. If they do want to try to fit more games in, and what they said today, it was about safety and health risks, then you're talking about playing a college football season in the spring and then coming back in September. It's just not doable. So it's one of these things like they're telling, maybe in the spring, but really when you're analyzing it, you get a spring game like you usually do, an inter-conference or inter-game scrimmage, and you might get one against somebody else. But even if they were playing, even let's just say it was Michigan and they played like Michigan State, these are going to be like, you ever heard of soccer where they call them a friendly?
Yeah.
Now, Michigan and Michigan State were for a friendly, and Michigan and Ohio State wouldn't be very friendly with Ryan Day, trying to get 100 points, but he's not going to have Justin Fields. But it's not going to be. You're not playing for any a Big Ten title or anything in the playoffs, but it would be better than nothing.
They could, if they decided that they wanted to start practice on January 1st, and then you have a month, and then on February 1st they start their games. They could play a 6-game division schedule, decide a division champion, and then the 7th game would be the conference champion. That would take you into like late March, and then just scrap spring football.
Yeah, I would have to see that laid out there. I haven't seen any like that particular model laid out there.
Yeah, that was just a model I just thought of. Not an official model.
That seems like it would be pushed further back. I haven't seen any that end earlier than May, but just what you did right there. I mean, talking about 6 games, that seems more like 2 months, January, February.
Yeah. Yep. No, you're right. All right, let's turn the page to the second chapter, and that takes us to the 9-5 Detroit Tigers.
Yeah, 9-5 Detroit Tigers. They're going for 5 in a row tonight. Currently, they're in the sixth inning. It's the bottom of the sixth, 2 down. The Tigers are down 4, 6-2 right now. So, Tyler Alexander, who was blowing people away out of the bullpen, he gets the start. He gave up a crooked number in the first inning. He gave up a four spot, and the White Sox are just pounding the ball. Man, they've hit a lot of home runs in this one, and but the way that the Tigers are playing here, a lot of people that are obviously taking notice. How much notice are you taking?
Well, I'm taking a lot of notice, even though we're only 14 and a half games into the season. It's very surprising what they've done, and it's hard not to react because I truly thought that they would be in contention for the worst team in baseball. If this is a 162-game season, then they'd have a much better shot to do so, and they could get back into contention for Kumar Rocker. That's not happening now that they're 9-5. Even if they drop to 9-6, they have too many wins. And after seeing how bad the Pirates were over the weekend, I think we all know that the now 3-13 Pirates are clearly the worst team in baseball. Every other team has at least a .353 winning percentage, so there's still a chance the Tigers could have the second worst record, but it doesn't look like they'll have the second worst record. I don't think that the Tigers are a great team. Matter of fact, I know they're not. I know they're not a good team, and I don't think they're going to make the playoffs or finish with a winning record, but they are certainly a much better team than they were last year, and they are more watchable, which is good for Tigers fans. Last year, when you think about it, they had atrocious starting pitching, a bad bullpen, especially after the Shane Green trade. They had an atrocious lineup that had no power, and on defense, they looked like not minor leaguers, they looked like little leaguers. Now, if you look at them in 2020, the starting pitching is still horrendous. Tyler Alexander was atrocious after setting that record in his last relief appearance, but they came into today with the second highest starting pitcher ERA in baseball at just under 6, and obviously they're way over 6 after Alexander today. They had the third highest starting pitcher opponent's slugging percentage at almost 500 coming into today. You can't trust Boyd, even though that's your boy. He's hashtag not my ace. You can't trust Nova, and even though Fulmer had a very good 3 innings yesterday, it was only his second start. You can't trust him. And the number 5 starting pitcher right now is not Casey Mize. It's, I guess, Tyler Alexander. You can't trust him. Turnbow's only had 3 starts. But the bullpen is much better than it was last year. We'll have to see how that fares now that Buck Farmer is on the IL. They have a middle of the pack ERA. They've only allowed 6 home runs. Their lineup has a lot more power, which is why we saw them get off to that 9-5 start, hitting home runs left and right, which they were second to last in home runs last year. And you've seen guys like Jones take some strides. Candelario's been hot over the last several games, and the defense is much better. It helps that Nick Castellanos is no longer a Tiger. It helps that Jake Rogers, a quote-unquote defensive catcher who was always letting balls get to the backstop, is down in Toledo. But they're a much better team in many, many ways. Now we have to see how they fare over the next month now that they're done playing the Royals until the middle of September, and they're done playing the Reds for the season.
Yeah, you hate the Tigers.
Well, I just said they're better. I said they're more watchable. What do you want me to say?
I know, but you're just taking guys and throwing them under the bus on the way through there. Yeah, well, I wasn't expecting a whole lot, and so, all of this is good for me, and I'm enjoying it. I thought at this point, they'd be 4 games under 500, and people would have already, even with no sports and everything else, just hit the snooze button, but there's genuine excitement from the fans, and when you see that, you see the team playing above 500, regardless of who they're playing against. It's reason to tune in, reason to talk about them. And you didn't mention you mentioned that bullpen. Did you say Soto's name? I mean, he's
I didn't say his name,
here.
but I said that they have improved, and Soto is definitely. I mean, Soto last year was an absolute dumpster fire as a starter, and now with Buck Farmer gone, I think that most Tigers fans, I feel comfortable with him moving into the number 8-man role temporarily because he's been so great throwing 100 miles an hour.
Yeah, well, the one thing when you watched him in those 7 starts last year, he was brutal, but he was usually pretty good through the first 2 innings. He was good through about 25, 30 pitches, and then it'd blow up in the third. And he still had that 100-mile-an-hour fastball. And even when you were watching him last year, it's like, this guy looks like he'd be great in the bullpen. And, they put him in there, and he's using that slide step, and he's pounding the strike zone. And now he's the most exciting thing about this team.
Yeah, and he is the most excited, or one of the most exciting things about the team right now. The big key though is the most exciting player that I think that most fans wanted to see but haven't seen so far this year is Casey Mize. And I look, I'm very disappointed that he has not made his debut. I thought that the reason he wasn't on the initial roster, especially given the reports that he was arguably the best starter in summer camp, was because they wanted some extra service time. They just had to wait a week. It's been 2.5 weeks and he's still not on the team. If you're a fan who wants to see the Tigers contend and you see Matt Boyd, you see Tyler Alexander, who is not entrenched in the starting rotation, unlike Matt Boyd. If you see these other starters, you've got to start getting angry and saying, hey, Avila, we got a winning record. We have a chance a quarter of the way through the season to compete for a playoff spot. What are you doing keeping Mize down there in Toledo, send him up I-75? That's the guy everybody wants to see. And unless they're just trying to get another year of service time out of him by waiting until May of 2021, you got to say that it's time to bring him up. How much longer are they going to continue to go with an atrocious starting rotation like this when they could, number one, boost it by bringing Mize up, and also give him an additional challenge? Because how much of a challenge is he getting by going up against the likes of Spencer Torkelson, Riley Green, and the other bums down in Toledo?
Yeah, well, I know Ron Gardenhire was laughing it up in his pregame show. He was asked about Mize, and he always says the same things. Talk to Al, but I think the writing's on the wall now. Like Norris got a little bit banged up last night. I know he's not a starter, but he's been, there as a piggyback. And the way Alexander is blown up here, there's no time to, let's see him a couple times through the rotation, especially when you're above 500. I mean, if they're not going to bring him up now, then I think that there should be a little bit of an uproar. If you have used the feedback and you were talking like Mike, I see it's good to see Mike on here. We'll get to the feedback that isn't about the Tigers right now later on in this broadcast here. But Keith is right with us on Mize. He says, bring him up. And the Tigers pitching needs to come around. Their offense is not as good as it is now. They won't be the number one offense, but they can certainly are better. The Turnbull looks really good. If they can find two more really good starters, they got a good shot to hang around 500. Yeah, I'm with Keith there. That's what I'm looking at.
Yeah, I look at 3 ways that the Tigers could improve. One, I already mentioned, is Mize coming up because if he was A, the best pitcher that they had in summer camp, and B, you think he can't be worse than whoever their number 5 starter is, then it's a no-brainer that would improve the team right here, right now. Number 2, look, we had the hashtag star, hashtag bum debate with Matt Boyd before the season started. You said hashtag star, I said hashtag bum, and no surprise you lost that debate. And Matt Boyd is showing that with every single start that he's had this year. He was a dumpster fire again. But while Matt Boyd isn't great, he's better than this, and I would expect him to improve to at least a number 4 or 5 caliber starting pitcher for the rest of the season. And then number 3 is Miguel Cabrera. Coming into today, he was 10 for 49. He had the 4 home runs, as everybody remembers, but he's hitting in the middle of the order with a 204 batting average. Look, I think that we know that his best days are behind him, but and I think we know that he's not going to be around 330, 320, or 310. But can Miggy finish with at least a 270, 280 batting average? Because you can't just sit there and be a black hole right there at a prime spot in the order at number 3. Those are the 3 guys that I would look to for signs of improvement. Mize to come up, Boyd to get a little better, and Miggy to do the same.
Yeah, I think there's some positive signs, though, about Mickey. Yesterday I was looking at some of them. Good exit velocity, and also his balls batted in play are like below 200. And I think the average for the BABIP is like 320. So there should be a correction there, and that average ought to be shooting up a little bit. Now, he's not the fastest guy, so maybe you're not going to expect it, to jump up like 70 points or not, but he's hitting the ball hard, and he's getting unlucky with his balls in play, and that should come around. So I would expect him to, get a little bit of a boost here That's a good sign. It's a good sign, even though he, what you pointed out about his batting average, not so hot.
Yeah, I'd be happy if it was not so hot. It's at the Mendoza line right now. Let's turn the page now to the third chapter. And as we do so, we've got NHL news, and it has nothing to do with the Red Wings because the playoff picture is set. And it featured, after the two bubbles concluded their play-in games, it featured both number 12 seeds advancing to face the number 1 seeds in the Eastern or Western conferences, and one of the number 11 seeds advancing to face the number 2 seed. The Chicago Blackhawks were dead last in the Central Division, but they were invited to the Western Conference bubble, and they get to face the Vegas Golden Knights in the first round after a 12-5 upset. The 12 seed in the East upset the Pittsburgh Penguins, which excited a lot of Sidney Crosby haters around here to advance to the first round. Meanwhile, the New York Rangers, who had a winning record of 37-33 before the shutdown, a team that had 40 more points than the Detroit Red Wings, ended up getting the number 1 overall pick in the draft. The Wings, of course, sit with the number 4 pick. Dennis, before we get to the draft, and Red Wings fans, I guess you could say, getting another kick to the sack, what do you think about the playoff picture?
Well, how about starting it out with the Jackets and the Lightning in this game, 2-2. They're not in just overtime, not in the second overtime. They're in the fifth overtime. Fifth overtime.
Last I checked, it was third. Wow.
No, it's the fifth now, and it's going on so much so that they postponed tonight's Canes-Bruins game, not because of coronavirus, but because they're the game that they're also playing there has been the 5 overtime. So That's the way to get things going, man. That takes me back to, the Islanders and Sabres. I remember the playoffs. Keith Primo, I think, scored in. It might have been 4 overtimes, but I'm going to say that without looking it up, this has got to be the longest playoff game in NHL history.
Oh, wait a second. We have breaking news. It appears that Rob Manfred is going to allow them to stick an extra man on the ice. Just to get the game over with.
Funny, not in the playoffs. What were you saying? The Red Wing fans are just hot, man. They are angry. There's a bunch that I was communicating with over the last couple of days. They're mad that the Rangers got the top pick. They were going to be mad whoever got it. They would have really been mad if it was the Leafs or the Penguins. But, the Rangers got it. So, it's the big market. Look at how many teams, had more points. Look at how many points the Rangers had. Look, man, if you have a lottery, I am for a lottery rather than just going with the worst team like the NFL. I would still rather go with a lottery model than just going with the worst team. But I understand Red Wings fans' frustration because they've just been so unlucky and they've been burned the last 3 years. There's nothing worse, than saying, all right, we're tanking, I'm taking it on the chin, and then every year you lose draft position after draft position. You think, yeah, this thing sucks, but there's not much you can do about it. It just shows you the simple thing of fandom. Because if the Wings the last 3 years would have boosted up their chances, they would have got the number 1 last year, maybe got the number 1 this year. Everybody would say, hey man, we're just lucky. It's Stevie Y. Everything's going great. But Red Wing fans are so hot, I don't even think they can enjoy the Stanley Cup playoffs, which start tonight. And I'm picking the Avs against the Lightning. That's going to be who I think is the Stanley Cup Finals.
Yeah, I've got the Lightning winning it. They have too much talent. They got swept last year after having won the President's Cup. I don't think they can forget what happened, but obviously they're in, 5, 6, 7, 8 overtimes right now with the Columbus Blue Jackets having trouble just winning one game against the 12 seed. And last year they couldn't beat the 8 seed. Now they can't beat the 12 seed, but I'm still going to go with them to win the Stanley Cup Finals. In terms of the Red Wings angle, I get that there is sting because now you can put a team name down for the one that has the number 1 overall pick. But we already knew, a couple of months ago that the Red Wings were going to have the number 4 pick. That Gary Bettman wasn't going to come out yesterday and say, surprise, we're going to give the number 1 pick to the Red Wings. We knew it was the number 4 pick. We knew that a team that was in one of the bubbles was going to get the number 1 pick. And so that's that. And like you were saying with the lottery, I'm fine with it. The lottery is meant not to guarantee that a team that had the worst record gets the number one pick. It's to guard against tanking like a no-limit soldier. It's an anti-Master P rule. So they don't want teams like the Red Wings, if they're having a bad start to the season, to just get rid of all their players so the final 30 games of the season, they're a joke. They don't want to see the next Sidney Crosby getting ready to enter the NHL draft and teams deciding to shed all their players before the start of the season just so they can get that guy and finish with a 15-win season. The reason they have the lottery is so the teams will be competitive during the season, and to ensure that teams are getting a good pick, they put a floor to how far the draft pick can go. So the Red Wings had bad luck, and they're ending up with a top 4 pick. That doesn't mean that they're ending up with their first pick in the 7th round. Their first pick is going to be the 4th overall, which means that Steve Yzerman is still expected to draft a perennial all-star. So it's disappointing. It was a while ago, but now they have a chance to draft an all-star. Similar situation with the Pistons. They've got they had a chance to continue to tank until the coronavirus pandemic hit. It'd be nice if they could jump up into the top 3 or 4 and get themselves LaMelo Ball or somebody else. But if not, if they sit there with the number 5 pick or the 6th pick, they still have a chance with their new general manager to draft a perennial all-star. Do it.
Yeah, Wings aren't giving Gary Bettman the pandemic pass with having the teams that were able to compete for the playoffs, and then when they fall out of it, able to get that number 1 pick. They're just angry about it. I mean, I was trying to lay it out there too. It's like, look, it's a different season, it's a different thing with the pandemic. Nope, don't want to hear about it. Wings. They just people wanted Lafreniere, and now
I get
they
it.
can't have him. They're just upset about it. There's no reasoning with them. It's just
well, if next
they're
year
hot.
the Red Wings are the 10th worst team in the NHL, they don't make the playoffs, and then they get the number 1 pick, everyone's going to say, oh, this is great. I don't know who the potential number 1 pick is, but if he's better than Lafreniere is supposed to be, everyone is going to say, hey, it worked out perfectly.
Yeah, sports going crazy tonight. The Dames got, according to Keith, over 60 points. We got a 5 overtime game in hockey. Tigers are battling it out with the White Sox, going for 5 in a row. They got the 5th chapter on Twitch tonight, our debut there, and we got. I know Matt Cheller's a big hockey fan. He's jumping in on the live chat. I guess I have to look. That's YouTube. YouTube and Twitch look a lot alike, actually, when you're looking at it. But hey, we'll get there's a lot of Tiger and other feedback coming in as well.
Yeah, and for those of you that are just joining in, we are now on Twitch as well. You can watch us on Facebook, you can watch us on YouTube, and you can also watch us on twitch.tv/the5thchapter. So we certainly encourage you to watch us on that platform as well. All right, Dennis, you ready to turn the page to the 4th chapter?
I am, and that's going to get us to the National Football League. And I'll tell you what, man, if college football does go by the boards and the NFL's out there, they're going to scoop up those Saturday windows, 1 o'clock, 4:30, and probably a Saturday night game. So it's like, what are you going to do on a Saturday in the fall? You're going to be watching the NFL is what you're going to be doing, because they're going to put all of those games up there as soon as they can, as soon as the SEC and all those other teams follow the Big Ten and Pac-12, I guess, hopefully. But the Lions, they had Matt Stafford out today and, doing a Zoom with the reporters, and they will start in full pads this weekend. This week, though, Chap, they made a trade, and they traded with the Patriots. Your surprise level in that?
Look, and for those of you that are wondering, it was Michael Jackson, a corner, not the dead white woman. Michael Jackson, a cornerback, was traded to the Patriots for a 7th-round pick in 2022. It's a joke what Bob Quinn does, the amount of trades that he makes with the Patriots. This is why he's rated the worst general manager in the NFL. It's not that just the fact that he made a trade with the Patriots, or that he only got a 7th-round pick for a guy that most people had never heard of and thought was dead. It's that he traded with the Patriots again. This is the 9th time in less than 5 years, not that Bob Quinn has executed a trade, it's the 9th time in less than 5 years that Bob Quinn has executed a trade with the New England Patriots. He used to be an executive with the Patriots, and it seems like that's all he does. He doesn't seem like he does much work. It just seems like he just sits back and sits on the phone. No, doesn't it seem like all he does is sit back and talk on the phone with Bill Belichick? Hey, do you want this player? I want this player. Can you make a trade? Okay. Oh, you're going to release this guy? He's going to be a free agent? Great. We'll pick him up. All he does is trade with Bill Belichick and sign his former players, because it's not just the trades. You look at the free agents last year. Welcome to the group, Trey Flowers. This year, welcome Jamie Collins. Welcome Danny Amendola a couple of years ago. Welcome Danny Shelton this year. And let's not forget his head coach, Matt Patricia. There are 30 other teams out there with which he could make a deal, but the only team he ever wants to make a deal with is the Patriots, and it seems like the only free agents he wants to sign, or at least the guys that get the first dibs, are the Patriots. It's a joke. Do your job. Focus on somebody else besides the retreads that Belichick doesn't want.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like he's a secret agent for the Patriots here. But he's doing it. It does remind me also a lot of a former Tiger manager, Randy Smith. He would only make deals with the Padres, but this one, like, if he was having success, and, his defense is, look, we have the familiarity of them make deals, but yeah, he only makes deals and only picks up free agents from the Patriots. And, after this year, if, they should be in playoff contention. So maybe we'll get a couple more years from Bob Quinn. But you know what? They did get some good news this week. They did have a former player. Darius Slay really didn't take any shots at him this week, did he?
Yeah, right. Yeah, he just went to Philly and said that I'm happy to be in an organization that's treating me like a man. So,
that was a shot then.
Yeah. I would say that that's a shot. So, yeah, look, and who runs the organization that apparently didn't treat him like a man, the only professional organization that he's known before coming to the Philadelphia Eagles? That's Bob Quinn's Detroit Patriots, who have the same record as the Detroit Lions, but are trying to get the same roster as the New England Patriots. Look, these guys should have been fired back in January. They weren't, and I gotta wonder what Sheila Ford Hamp is thinking right now, because she was at her mother's side, elderly Martha Ford, when the two of them, you have to imagine, teamed up to say, we're going to bring them all back. We're going to bring Quinn back. We're going to bring Patricia back. And she was right there throughout the offseason saying, okay, yes, I'll sign my name on the dotted line to bring in Danny Shelton, sign my name on the dotted line to bring in Jamie Collins, these washed-up Patriots that Bill Belichick doesn't want. And now she's sitting there thinking, a ninth trade with the New England Patriots? Like, either Lions fans should be thinking, wow, this is same old Lions, don't care what the GM is doing, let him make a whole bunch of stupid decisions. Or maybe Sheila Ford Hamp has got to be thinking to herself, this is ridiculous. All he does is sit on the phone and play phone tag with Bill Belichick. Who in the world did I bring back?
Well, I'm a little bit scared myself, because now that Michigan football is out of the picture of the Big Ten, I'm putting all of my faith into the Lions coming up in the fall, and that's a scary proposition. So yeah. I'm looking forward to seeing DeAndre Swift and Jeff Okudah, and I hope they televise some of the scrimmages just so we can get some football out there and see something, because I need that void filled. Let's read. We've got a lot of feedback coming in here all the way through. Tim is enjoying the show. Mike Amin was like, you guys were spot on earlier. What happens when when the players don't play football? They go to parties, they get preoccupied in student life instead of preparing for games. And it's almost certain to increase COVID cases, not vice versa. Leadership is needed now more than ever. Plus, where is the money revenue coming from to support the winter sports like hockey, wrestling, etc.? Love your show, guys. Keep it up. I knew you'd put wrestling in there, Mike, the wrestling guy. And
the revenue is going to be a big issue, because obviously the football funds a lot of these universities, and that's a big reason why they want to have football. The Big Ten doesn't need it as much because they've got BTN, and they can make that money up over the next couple of years. But these other sports are going to be in trouble. I saw on Twitter, I believe it was yesterday, either yesterday or today, that Barry Alvarez, the former Wisconsin football coach and current athletic director, said that because the Big Ten is canceling the football season, there are going to be layoffs. Now, yeah, I think back to what the Pac-12 players are saying in their letter last week about how there shouldn't be layoffs and there shouldn't be sports that get canceled because Stanford University, for example, has a $27.7 billion endowment, so they could just dig into there. I don't know that Wisconsin's is that big, but let's say it's half that, and they got a $13 to $14 billion endowment. Take a small piece of that and keep on funding your sports.
Yeah, I think the whole thing with endowments, the people that give the money, they earmark it for specific things, and it's not specific to sports. However, I would think that if you had all of those billions, that you would be able to borrow some money against that. I don't know. Like, I can borrow money. I don't even have any.
Yeah.
So I would think if you had a couple billion, you'd be able to borrow against that. But I don't know. Maybe there's the rules about the endowment that you can't borrow money against it either.
I don't know what it is, whether it's just like a big vat, a big bank account, whether it's like Scrooge McDuck and you just jump in there and there's gold coins. But if they've got money sitting there, if it doesn't take that much money to get a field hockey season or a wrestling season to conclude, I mean, I would assume you're talking about, in terms of coaching, facilities, travel, you're talking about what, less than $3 million for a wrestling season, less than $3 million for a baseball or a field hockey season. We're not even talking about a billion or a $500 million or a tenth of $1 billion. They should be able to figure this out without slashing salaries and without laying people off. Wisconsin is too big of a university to do that, and I would hope that Penn State is not going to do anything like that.
Well, I would agree with you. I hope that it wouldn't, and I hope they don't have to go to men's sports and cut them or reduce scholarships or any of those things. You're right about that. But you talk to people that are at any universities, they keep all of that separate. You get the Hill, you get the sports, and there's a reason that they don't cross the lines there because they don't want to cough up any of that cash. But this is an extreme situation, unprecedented in our life, the history of almost the world here, at least for 100 years. Mm-hmm. So I would say that they should do that as well. Keith Tungavailoa, I'm going to start calling him. He always gets in and says something about the Lions missing on Tua. He said it when it was happening. He continues to say it, but he did like the 2 picks. I like last year's first 2 picks, even though Tua should have been the first pick this year. He said, I never liked Quinn either, chap. Taking Tease Tabor.
Tease the snail Tabor.
Was a joke. Same thing, taking Jelani Tavai in the second round when there were so many other great players on the board. It should be a layup taking your first pick. He says, I'm so sick of the trades with the Pats as well. You are correct, chap. He only trades with them.
Like, you can't think of anything else.
Patriots.
Yeah, you can't think of any other relationship like this in sports. It's not like, I don't know, the Houston Rockets only make trades with the New York Knicks, or the Detroit Tigers only make trades with the Cubs, or the Pittsburgh Penguins only make trades with the Washington Capitals. It's the only example I can think of, especially with he's got 9 trades in the last 4.5 years with the Patriots. I don't know if he's made 9 other trades. So I would assume that the majority of the trades that he's made have been with the Patriots. If you make 9 trades with an organization over 2 decades, that's a lot. We're talking about less than half a decade, and I don't think anyone would be surprised if he makes another trade with the Patriots. It doesn't matter whether it's draft picks or whether it's players, and then when you add in the coach, when you add in the free agents, and then you think, well, he's doing all this because he wants to be the Patriots. 9 wins, 6 wins, 3 wins. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, Randy Smith, that's the one, but that's not a very good one to point to. Randy Smith ended up getting fired because he wasn't a very good GM. He was a terrible GM.
There you go.
And he would only make trades with the Padres, an organization that he was with. Maybe there would be a few with the Astros. That was a long time ago. We do have an update. Tim letting us know that the Lightning have scored in the 5th overtime. I was seeing if I could get the goal. It just says unassisted at the 10:27 mark with the Lightning over the Jackets, 3-2 in 5 overtimes. And I'm going to say the longest game in NHL playoff history. without even knowing it, if that's true or not. But it seems like it to
So
me.
that's making your Eastern Conference champion pick look good and my Stanley Cup champion look good by getting that win, eating that victory, that W.
Yeah, and you know what? Since you went ahead, I didn't give a champ. I'm going to pick the. It's weird to say the Avalanche to win it. So there you go.
All right. Now, before we get to the 5th chapter, it's time for the major wager. You want some sports betting advice? Dennis and I have it for you right here.
You want me to? Why don't you go first? Because I got to think something over to see who
All right.
I'm going to come up with.
Well, and I made my selection just so you guys know before the show started. I tweeted it out. You can follow me on Twitter at BChap Sports. You can follow Dennis on Twitter at Dennis50. And I just put our Twitter handles right down there so you can see it just in case you forgot. But I tweeted this out at BChap Sports before the show. I went with the Blue Jays minus 1.5 against the Marlins, and it was plus 125. So you bet 100, then you would make a $125 profit if the Blue Jays were to cover. And before I give you an update on the score of that game, the reason I went with that game is because obviously the Marlins had a nice run. Everyone was shocked because like the Tigers and Orioles, they were expected to be a bottom feeder this year. Then they had the coronavirus. They came back. They kept on winning. But they've lost 2 in a row coming into today, and that's number one. Number two, they're just not that good in terms of talent. And number three, because of all the coronavirus positive tests they've had, they have, I believe, over a dozen replacement players on their roster. Not only guys from their taxi squad, but guys are just bringing in from like independent ball and minor league free agents just to fill out a roster. And so I figure it's time for them to regress. Looking at the Major League scoreboard right now, oh, what the heck? Like seconds ago, all right, I'll put up the score just so you can see. But seconds ago, right before we started the major wager, it was 4-2 Blue Jays over the Marlins, and since then the Marlins have tied the score at 4-4. So it was looking good up until I guess moments ago. So I'm not happy about that, but that was my pick, and I'm still hopeful that the Blue Jays will win the game and win by 2.
You know, watch out for those Buffalo Jays. You never know what's going to happen with them.
That's right.
Braden Point, by the way, gets the winner for the Lightning in the 5th overtime. You know what? I put 50 on my Raptors the last time out. I was up 120, and I lost that one. So I'm sitting here still plus 70, which I feel pretty good about. And I'm going to take 50 of that, and I'm going to put it on the Vegas Golden Knights. Should I put it on the series or just one game? What the heck? I'm going to roll with just the first game that's going to face off tonight. I'm going to take the Vegas Golden Knights over the Chicago Blackhawks for 50 of my 70 that I have left.
Money line or point spread? Or I guess not point spread. It would be puck line.
It's got to be. Yeah, well, I don't have a puck line, so I'm just going to take it to win. I don't know what.
Yeah. It's always it's always 1.5.
They are -2. Wow, is it 200? I guess I have to put these glasses on to look for sure.
Yeah, that'd be the money line.
It is 200, -200. So I'm gonna put 50 on it. So I only win 25. With a victory, I'll take it.
Okay. All right, Dennis. It is now time for our 5th chapter, and as we turn that page, it is game time.
Ooh, and that's right. I worked really hard on this trivia all day long to see if I could get you. And for this one, it's going to be Detroit Tigers birthplaces multiple choice.
Okay, at least I get multiple choice.
You get
Otherwise,
multiple
I'd
choice
have no
here.
chance. Okay.
You might be all right. I give you the player, and then I'm going to give you 4 places, and you have to tell me where he was born. You ready to go?
Yes. I'm ready.
Matthew Boyd, Detroit Tiger starter, the lefty. Was he born in
I know this.
Montana, Washington, Texas, or New York?
This one's easy because I remember hearing him talk a lot about being a big Seattle Mariners fan growing up. Matthew Boyd is from the state of Washington.
Yeah, he also went to school out there in the Great Northwest. And the one thing about when you have Tiger starters, Dickerson always says where they're from, so this could help you out.
Mm-hmm.
And I do have...
Especially the pitchers.
I've got another one here in Michael Fulmer. Do you want to? Do you know what state he's from without even me giving you the multiple choice?
Can I guess and then have you give me the multiple choice and possibly change it?
Yeah.
I'm going to guess Oklahoma.
Correct.
So I'm
for
two
two.
for two. At first I was thinking Arkansas, but then I was thinking, no, he's not from there, Oklahoma. I think they're border states, but yes, there we go, 2 for 2. I'm better at this than I thought.
Yeah, you're better than I thought you were going to be too. This one comes from Gregory Soto, the fireball left-hander, the 6'1" fireballer, the southpaw. Was Gregory Soto born in New Jersey, Illinois, the Dominican Republic, or Venezuela?
This is tough. My initial reaction is Dominican Republic. I would say Dominican Republic. I'm wrong?
No, I'm just making hand gestures.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I would say. At first, I was gonna say he can't possibly be from America, but then you think about his name being. Well, first off, I don't think I've ever heard him speak in Tigers Live or a post-game interview, because obviously if you hear a very thick accent, that would suggest that he's not from America, because if he was born in Illinois or New Jersey, he most likely would not have a strong Spanish-speaking accent. But I've never heard him speak, or at least if I have, I don't recall. His name is Gregory, which is a name that a lot of Americans have, as opposed to if it was Javier or Juan. I think he's Dominican. I think he's from the Dominican Republic. That's my final answer.
Correct. 3 for 3.
There we go. I got this. I'm gonna get all 5, I think.
Is Christian Stewart from Nevada, Montana, Illinois, or Georgia?
Okay, well, we can scrap Montana because no black people are from Montana. What are the other 3?
Nevada, Illinois, Georgia.
Nevada.
First place.
Yeah. Definitely not Montana. Nevada. There are definitely more black people in Illinois and Georgia. Georgia's a big baseball hotspot. I know Nico Goodrum is from Georgia. I'm going to say that Christian Stewart is from Georgia as well.
Yeah, I think he went to college. Did he go to Georgia Tech? He is from Georgia.
4 for 4.
He's from Georgia.
Yep.
He went to college right around in that area as well. And the last one is Miguel Cabrera. Was he born in Caraco, Dominican Republic, Venezuela, or Florida?
It's Curacao, not Caraco.
Yeah.
He was born in Venezuela. That's the easiest one.
Curacao.
Yes. Miguel Cabrera, born in Venezuela.
Caraco's over in there. I guess
There's a city called Caracas, Venezuela, which I believe is the capital of Venezuela. But Curacao is the name of the country.
Hey, I learned something new tonight.
That's
Curacao.
Right. That's right.
It looks like a very nice place down in the Antilles down there in the Caribbean.
Mm-hmm.
As I was checking it out, I was like, wow, I'd like to go there. There's some nice beaches. What did you say? You said Dominican Republic? That is incorrect.
No, I didn't.
Miguel, what? Well,
No.
check the tape.
5 for 5. I said
5
Venezuela.
for 5.
Yes.
5 for 5. Nice
Yep.
job, Chapman. Pretty good. Well, the Big 12 and the SEC both said they're not falling in line with what's going on with the Big 10 and Pac-12. But by Thursday, will there be changes in college football, or will the Big 10 be standing out there all alone with their brethren from out west, the Pac-12? We will get to that on the 5th chapter coming up on Thursday.
He represents the mitten by way of Penn State. When Chapman gets to talking sports, the people can't wait. He represents the mitten. Be a true EMU, but cut Dennis in the fall, and his veins bleeding blue. They got respect around the state. When that light turns red, so don't sleep on these dudes. Just invite your friends to cut your nap short and tip your cap for and sit back for the fifth chapter. Brian Chapman. Dennis Fithian. When they open their mouths, they spitting the facts, bro. This ain't even optional, man. You just have to tune into YouTube to watch the broadcast or download it to your phone to peep the podcast. They mix laughter, they get after. It's all captured in the fifth chapter.